volume wise. Yeah.
Hi everyone, back again after last Thursday, back by, I don't know, unpopular demand maybe.
You're going to have to that light for a second. I'll look better.
So Simon's asked me to come on again.
Just a sec. I should start again then.
And just carry on last week's conversation with you regarding politics in Scotland, tactical voting, and the situation in Scotland regarding independence.
Your volume's just working alright.
That wasn't. Am I live?
Aye.
Okay.
Yep.
So sorry guys, just doing
away.
a couple of tests here. Okay, so that's us live. So once again, we'd welcome your comments, welcome your questions, just suggestions, anything you'd like to share, anything you'd like to ask. Can't promise every answer here tonight. However, be happy to come back next week and answer any questions that we can't answer tonight with you. Okay.
If you get everybody to hear the thumbs up, let you know they can hear you okay.
Again, guys, if you can give me a thumbs up, give us a thumbs up to make sure we're coming through okay. That'd be appreciated, just so we know the sound's okay. And as I say, just to reiterate, we'd welcome any comments, welcome any questions and calls as well. Okay, Simon, we'll give the number out shortly. Okay. Brian Newell, that's not Simon here. My name is Gordon, and I'm here to talk about politics. So, Jordan Robertson, perfect. Okay, thank you. So just to kind of reiterate and touch on what we spoke about last week. So last week we were talking about politics, tactical voting. A lot of you were asking, were asking in what area who would you vote for in your area. We spoke about the list constituencies. We spoke about first past the post system and constituency. So it's really important again, guys, just to mention again that your first, second, third preferences, fourth preferences, they have to, if you believe in Great Britain and you believe in the UK, then they have to be pro-union parties. Again, I'm not here to preach any particular party. I'm not here to preach my own political views. All I'm here to do is to answer any questions you may have and hopefully help you secure the future of Scotland and the UK in the next election for 8, 12, 20 years. Ian Stewart, let's get tactical. Yeah, I agree. Again, without going over myself and repeating no ground for last week, tactical voting. One of the kind of best tactical voting systems I use is a postcode checker on the Scotland and Union page. Again, very simple and straightforward. You type in your postcode and you can choose to put an email in or not. And what you can do is put in your postcode and it will suggest the best placed parties for you to vote for. Okay, so it's dead simple and straightforward. But again, for me, just get out and vote. Well, you know, the election's a week away. Well, you know, we'll get to that in a second, Si. Yep, so the election is getting close. The latest opinion polls, it does show the SNP down 1 percentage point in the list and constituency vote. So for me, anyway, personally speaking, that's a positive step. But again, it's as far as I'm concerned, it's still a massive threat. They're still polling really well, which we have to acknowledge. But at the same time, if we act as one voice and act as a support, then there's no reason why we can't have at the very least a pro-union majority of MSPs at Holyrood.
So, is this one of the images you wanted up with?
So just the first comment to make Brian Newell, John Mason, couldn't agree more. I don't believe in personal attacks, unlike John himself. I don't believe in personally attacking people, but some of his views are, you know, ridiculous. And again, I'm not here to preach. I would really recommend you just type in John Mason comments and views, and you'll get a flavour of, you know, his particular views. I've got some images to share tonight, so again, part of the SNP's mantra over the years has been that they're whiter than white, and you can't trust, you know, Westminster, you can't trust the big party, the traditional parties. This was a SNP election poster from years ago, and again, one of their promises, they'll say anything to get into power. One of their big promises was they'll scrap the council tax, and my simple question is, how's that went? I think we're all still paying it. I think we all still get the letters and demands for the council. So again, a big massive promise broken for the SNP, and that was years ago. That was before we even were speaking about referendums.
You want the straight runner?
Yep. One thing I want to bring up as well and mention, this has been widely shared on social media over the last week. So this is a list of Glasgow council services that are under threat. So it's a massive list there. So again, this has been widely circulated. Again, look it up, do a bit of your own research if you can, because I think it's important for me to share things, but it's also important for you to do a bit of your own search as well. Okay. Another thing as well, the SNP pretend, in my view, to be champions of democracy. They always say about respecting the will of Parliament and the people's vote, which is something they don't do themselves, because we did vote overwhelmingly to stay in the UK, and also there's been various petitions over the years to stop another referendum, and you know, almost 126,000 people there have signed a petition in the last couple of years. But again, the so-called champions of democracy refuse to listen to the people that are paying their wages.
Phone number's up there if anybody wants to call.
So anybody wants to call in, as Simon said, I don't know if you can hear Simon, but there's a phone number up there. Welcome any calls and any questions. Just to say a couple of comments. James Peebles, again, it's difficult to answer with a straight face, because obviously my views are that the SNP do lie. I think they pursue popularity at all costs. There's a few things I'll touch on a wee bit later, but the SNP they're very much a populist party. They don't want to make any hard choices or hard decisions, and in my opinion, they'll literally say anything to get votes and to get attention. And obviously that graphic regarding the council tax promise they made highlights that quite significantly. Not right now. Yeah, so Scott McPhee, we need people to go out and vote. A low turnout favours in that. It's pro-unionists need to vote and save the union. That's, you know, pretty much word for word what I was saying last week. It's what friends of mine say, what people I know say as well. I think that's a very good point, because the people that are more motivated to vote right now are the people that are getting fed the independence referendums ideas by the SNP. So they're very much preoccupied by that, and they're very much motivated to do that. And I think it's really important, as I was saying last week throughout the show last week, it's really important that we go out and vote, no matter what party you believe in, what party you vote for. Go out and vote, and hopefully, if you do a bit of research, and hopefully if you believe in the UK, that'll be for a pro-union party. John Gardiner, time to wipe out the line SNP. Democratically, absolutely, yes. Never threaten future of the union again. I think that you know, living in the state of, just to touch on what you're saying, John, I think it's a very important point you're making, because every year, every election cycle, we live under this constant threat of what we see referendums, and just, you know, the Scottish Parliament has got a massive array of powers. It can do a lot of things, a lot of good for the country, but the focus for the last 7, 8, 9, at least 10 years has been on independence referendums in my opinion, where's the focus on education? Where's the focus on the economy? Where's the focus on hospitals? Where's the focus on police? All it is every political debate, every political statement, every interview, is independence, 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 and for me, it's a farce. Scott Ferguson saying the SNP is a dictatorship. Whenever she's been challenged, she's ignored the people, tried to implement illegal policies. They operate as a socialist party, not a democratic one, heading towards Marxism. Also, if they stay, you'll see yourself a joke disagreeing with them. Again, Marxism. Do you know what? There's some very, very good points in there that people might not be aware of. Don't know, have you got the named person scheme there, Simon?
Find it.
So something the SNP, speaking about dictatorships and the SNP wanting to impose their views on people, the SNP tried to impose a thing called the named person scheme, where, to cut a long story short and to give you the kind of a summary of it, the SNP, the government, would impose a named person to so-called look after your children's welfare. However, that person would be appointed not by a family but by a government body, and that person would have full access to medical records. They could enter people's homes, they could take children away, and they could be appointed and they could do things without the consent and without the parents knowing. So I think what you're saying there, that touches very much on that, absolutely. And there's so many things that the SNP are trying to do with the back door that you'd really be surprised. So again, I would encourage you to go out there and just do a bit of research. You know, Google's a great tool. I'm not here to advertise any particular company, but you know, just do some research, guys. Sandra, if we vote tactically, we will wipe them out. Correct. There's no other way. Scroll down now. Obviously, I've highlighted the Scotland Union one. However, Sandra, I'm quite happy to share that. If you want to go to http www.vote21.scot, then have a look at that, and you'll get some advice there. Okay. Tactical vote for me, even not be a for part of the added test. Just need to hold my nose to help me rather than that. So that's for Tommy Cadona. Again, Tommy, yes. I think that in this country we have some hangovers for the 70s, 80s, and even 90s. I think that we do have political viewpoints. But again, if it's a case of holding your nose and voting for a party that you wouldn't necessarily vote for, then you know, in the short term, it is the best thing for keeping Scotland in the UK. So, yep, totally agree with that. Stan McGregor, first vote in most areas Labour, second vote Conservative. If that's what you feel, absolutely fine. However, I think there might be some variations or slight differences in that from postcode to postcode, and that's why I really advise you to go in and check that, just for your own peace of mind for that. Okay. Look at Gavin Hill. Again, this is a fantastic point, Brian. If Nicola Sturgeon can't do good for our own community, if she can't, you know, politics for me is a local thing. It's local democracy, local elections. You should be there for the people in your local area, and Nicola Sturgeon has totally failed the people, not just the Gavin Hill, but the whole of Glasgow South Side. And I think that's a very, very good point. And if she can't look after her own constituents, if she can't look after her local area, then how the hell can she look after the whole country? James Pickering, why is the SNP giving large grants to taxi drivers in the first 100 days and not other workers? I'll be absolutely honest with you, James, I'm not familiar with that policy, but I'll go and give it a look, and as I say, I'll look into that and I'll see if I can give an opinion on that towards the end of the show. Chris Bond, independent voters all vote for the SNP, pro-union votes are split, time to vote tactically if you believe in the union. Again, couldn't agree more. Absolutely right, and that's why you know, and another thing as well, the SNP have trained their people to sign up to voting panels and panel base and all these different votes, so it always looks as if they've got more support than they have, because they're well trained, well drilled, well organised, great PR system they've got, to be fair to them. but I think that as long as we are voting 1, 2, 3, 4 on the list vote for pro-union parties, then the big thing is to have a pro-union majority at the very least in Holyrood. Pods to Sturge on May the 6th. Again, let's hope that happens for the future of Scotland. Sandra McGregor, any small unionist parties are a wasted vote. We need to go with who are doing next best to the SNP. I agree with that. Again, this comes down to that's a very good point, Sandra, you've made. I want to touch on this touch on this because there are some new parties that sprang up. George Galloway's party, for example, as well. George Galloway, he's doing some great work, but because of the way the parliamentary system works in Scotland, because of the way the election system does work in Scotland, then unfortunately it could be a wasted vote. Okay, so in theory, absolutely fantastic, these parties are springing up, but in practice, at this moment in time, I believe that a vote for parties like the Labour Party, Conservative Party, Lib Dems, etc. is the best way at the moment. If anyone wants to come on and change my mind, please do. If anyone wants to give their opinion that's wrong, please do. Because, as I say, unlike the SNP, unlike the Nationalists, I welcome debate, I welcome different opinions, and I'm more than happy to discuss that. And you might change my mind. Scots winning, the country has been let down, the How country has been let down. I'm not 100% sure what that means. If you want to comment again, just to explain that, the whole country. Yeah, couldn't agree more. From the Shetland Islands right down to the borders. I totally agree. Sandra McGregor, if anyone wants to help the area vote for tactical vote, PM. So if you want to do that, please do. Scott Ferguson, they claim they want independence, but desperate to stay in the EU. How can you be independent when you have to get Brussels? The EU who are unelected, make all your laws, control your country and its people, including our so-called assets. Jimmy Crank needs to look up what independence actually means. The people who spoke, they said no. Again, some really good points in there, Scott, you've made. Again, on the one hand, they want to distance themselves and disassociate themselves with Westminster, become what they call independent, but at the same time, then immediately after that, if they get their wish, they would transfer powers back to Brussels. So it's farcical when you look at it. A lot of the SNP's policies, when you drill down to them, they are fantasy and they are farcical, and that's why they beat the drum, in my opinion, about independence so often and so loudly. Because when you actually look at it on the policies, like the named person schemes, like the Offensive Behaviour at Football Act, like the way they've mishandled education for 10 years, 14 years, you're absolutely right. And that is why they focus so much on independence, because it takes people's attention off the things that actually matter. Yes, I agree, 100% parties will split us even more, Sandra. Yep. Again, no, if anybody wants to come on and if anybody's supporting these other parties and wants to discuss it, then please do. I'm unhappy with that. Tommy Cadona's asking, do you think the Alba Party will damage the SNP's vote? Honestly, no. I think that the misconception is that it will. I think that it might damage the Green Party vote, but not the SNP's vote. I think that most people that are voting for the SNP or voting for independence will vote for the SNP in the first priority, so that'll be the number one on the list vote. I think that they'll either look at who's next best place to deliver independence, and for them that might be Alex Salmond's party. So I don't actually think it will damage the SNP's vote. It might have a marginal effect in some areas, like where Alex Salmond is from, etc. Up north, Alex Salmond represented the constituency of Gordon, funnily enough. So it might have an effect there, but I think actually the Alba Party might actually damage the Green Party a little bit more rather than the SNP itself. Alex Salmond, toxic? Yeah, again, you just have to look at his behaviour over the last few years and his behaviour as First Minister, and I'm sure you'll find that the evidence of that quite a lot. 14 years of the hopeless executive is enough time for the unions to vote them out. Yep. I think that any government, any party that is in power for 14 years has about a shelf life. But again, the SNP's PR machine is in full swing. It's beating the drum about independence, beating the drum about referendums, and again, that seems to motivate their supporters. So it's time for us to stand up and be counted literally with the voting. Tommy Cardona is damage to the Greens, not damage to the Nats by proxy. It's damage to the independence campaign, yes. I don't think it's not specifically damaging to the SNP, but I agree with the wider point, the wider context, that it is damaging to the independence movement, because the Greens are seen as they kind of beating the drum for that as well. So, yeah.
Good numbers. If anybody wants to keep liking, just to get the numbers up a wee bit, try and get us over 100.
We've got quite a more different people for last week as well. So more people for last week commenting, more people from last week asking questions. So that's always great. It's always good to have. And again, guys, just to kind of go back, if MD has any different viewpoints, if anyone thinks, Gordon, you're talking absolute nonsense here, the SNP are the best thing for the country, comment, call in. Yep, Sandra, again, another good comment. Easy way to look at it, simple way to look at it. We are the majority. I think for too long we have been the silent majority, and I think for too long we've been the majority that has apathy. I think we've been the apathetic majority. If we stand together on the tactical vote, we would wipe them out easily. Yes. I think that the main parties, so Lib Dem, Conservative and Labour, I actually believe that it might be time for them to have a more formal agreement in certain areas. However, I'm not aligned to any of these parties, so I can't advocate that. But I think maybe would the UK, would Scotland and the UK benefit from maybe some parties maybe not standing in certain areas? Then that's something to look at in the future. Only 4 home nations. Come on, Rangers, God save the Queen.
So
Simon, do you want to comment on that one?
I know. I'm quite happy with the numbers on it. Just if we everybody keep liking and sharing, we'll get more debate, the more numbers we get. Again, make sure the people's for what we're saying. If there's anybody watching it that disagrees, we're glad to hear them.
Scotland voted to stay part, so only 4 home nations. Scotland voted to stay part of the UK. Yes, again. It was quite interesting. Again, I had the mispleasure of watching some of Mary Black's speeches and some of Mary Black's comments in a Westminster committee debate, and she was criticising the UK. She was criticising ministers for apparently not being democratic, apparently not listening to people. However, the big thing for me is that in 2014, the majority of the people in this country voted against her ideas, so I think it's very hypocritical of her to be saying that. And again, Mary Black's actually one of my local MPs, unfortunately, and she was nowhere to be seen when the SNP closed the Royal Alexandra Hospital when I was born, actually, a maternity unit. So that shut down in the last kind of 12-18 months, and Mary Black was nowhere to be seen. So again, the SNP, local issues, they don't care about local issues, they don't really care what happens locally in their own constituencies. They're more concerned about separation, more concerned about splitting up people, more concerned about causing arguments and divisiveness. But when it comes to local matters that affect local people, they're literally nowhere to be seen. And again, if you don't believe me, look it up, because I think it's really, really important that people don't just listen to the likes of me. I mean, I'm no one really, but at the same time, do some research, look it up, and you'll be really, really surprised in what's out there. Got a comment from Scott Leslie here. just saying the pro UK vote is split between Conservative, Liberal Democrats and Labour. Unionists are more divided. I believe that unionists are more divided, and I think that that's why in the future perhaps there could be a case for the parties working together more. Again, the Conservatives and Labour are very very wary of working together because it thinks it can damage them. However, they're sitting at 20% popularity, they're sitting at 28% popularity, they're sitting in opposition in the third force of Scottish politics. It literally couldn't get any worse for them. So what's the harm in trying something else? Disappointing, just to continue with Scott's comments, it's disappointing to many Scottish Labour politicians that don't want to admit to being unionists. However, they are not pro-independence, as this option for any hardline Tory voters still a better one than the dreaded SNP. Everyone needs to get out and vote. Apathy is our enemy. Yep, Scott, absolutely spot on with that comment. We are, as we've said, and as we continue to say, we are the silent majority, but it's time that we stop being the silent majority. So I couldn't agree more with that. Chris, I agree with a pathetic comment. A larger percentage of independent supporters vote than those who wish to remain part of the UK. Absolutely correct. Pro-union voters need to vote now. The silent majority must be heard. Again, just echoing everything we were saying last week and this week as well. As I say, I don't really care. I'm not here to tell you who you vote for. You know, it doesn't make any bones to me if you support Conservatives, support Labour, support Lib Dems. Because right now, for me, on a personal level, the most important policy and the most important issue is ensuring we stay part of the UK for our future prosperity. And I think that the silent majority must be heard, as you say. So spot on.
Some coming on the feed, family coming on the feed and trying to feed them. There's one here that says they claim they want independence but are desperate to stay in the EU. Have you got that one?
Yeah, we've read that. Okay, so that's something we did cover. Yep, Si, so you're absolutely right to raise that. Again, that's what we said earlier. Absolutely right. On the one hand, they want to withdraw from the United Kingdom to become independent, but then immediately transfer the powers that they think they would get straight back to Brussels. So on a personal level, and I'm sure many people would hopefully agree, I don't understand how it's possible to want independence from one institution if you don't like it, but then immediately sign up and surrender powers to another institution. So it doesn't make any sense to me. So Tommy Cardona, after they said they wouldn't win especially asked about Ward 24, utter liars. Yep. So this is something that I think it's really important to highlight and to share with folk. Again, they say one thing in public, they say one thing at Holyrood Chamber, they say one thing to newspapers, they say one thing to interviewers. When they get asked questions, they'll say anything for popularity, then they'll make decisions, and then, you know, it'd be quite interesting if they used to go and look up particular SNP announcements regarding budget cuts or closures to hospitals, etc., and at the same time announcements about possible independence referendums. So go and look up that. I'm sure you'll find they're very closely aligned. Boris Johnson will be responsible for possibly splitting up the UK. Shame on him. Liar, liar, sold Ulster down the water. Now, again, this is very important. I did read this out because it's not something that I may personally agree with, but at the same time, as I say, we welcome views. So again, John, if you want to get back in touch and give us some, not so much evidence, but more info on that, I'm more than happy to share it. Because I believe, unlike the SNP, I believe in everyone being entitled to their own view without getting shot down. So, please do. As your specific comment about Boris Johnson responsible for possible threat in the UK, I believe that it's more apathy on the part of the silent majority up in Scotland that might do that. But again, get back in touch if you like. Archie, the only way on the first vote put your trust against the best party beat the SNP, on the last vote were the Conservatives. Again, if that's your opinion, Archie, brilliant, fantastic, you're more than I'm more than happy to share it, more than happy for you to write that. Again, I would encourage you to go to any tactical voting guide and just double check that for your area, okay? Because there are different regions in Scotland, so the list vote is split into different regions. So again, just make sure that you check before you vote, because I'm sure the last thing you want to do is vote wrongly. James Armstrong come on the Rangers for Sunday. Couldn't possibly agree with that, but I might, if you're lucky. Tommy Cardona, the EU thing is nothing more than xenophobia. Yeah, again, it's not just the EU thing, but for years we've now been, and again, only my opinion, but again, you know, I think actually is going to be, you know, touched on the next point, I'm no doubt. But it's not just the EU, but anyone, anybody, any person, institution, newspaper, TV station, anybody that dares to have a different viewpoint from the SNP is tarnished and boycotted. If you look, if you go on Google like SNP supporters boycott list, then you know they're advocating boycotting Barhead Travel or, you know, supermarkets purely because they stock British items, or they have British produce, or you know they've come out in favour of staying in the UK. So Tommy, it's not just with the EU, it's xenophobia towards the English as well. We've been taught to hate. We're getting brainwashed every year more and more to hate the English, to blame everything, every failure, everything wrong with our country, everything wrong or anything that doesn't go to plan on the English, and it's causing a massive divide. But again, give them their credit, they're very clever at what they do. Everyone needs an enemy, and for the SNP it's Westminster. Okay, so Stevie 1, the SNP have let Scotland deteriorate on purpose and blame the English. Now, that is actually a very interesting point, because if Scotland does deteriorate, then they've got a natural enemy to blame. So I would hope that that's not the case, but it's a very, very interesting point, and I think it's something that maybe needs more investigation, because you know, it could be a case of a managed decline, and very, very slowly but surely make decisions and have policies that does impact on things like education, the NHS in Scotland, for example, and then blame it on somebody else. So yeah, it's a very, very interesting point. Difficult to prove, and that's why I don't want you to go on too much on it, but it's a very interesting point nevertheless. Corey McNeely, Mon the Gordy. Well, depends on his comments. Thanks for the encouragement.
It's great numbers, guys. Just keep the chat going. Anybody wants to phone in, the numbers above. Give us your views.
It's great to see some much more comments than last week. It's great to see different people as well.
Good numbers. After the week we get 10,000 watched it by the end of the week, so a lot of people watched later on.
Okay.
So numbers were good.
And you know, if you want to like and share it to MDL, so that's a great number. So to have 10,000 people watch it by the end of the week is brilliant. Let's try and beat that this week. And again, it's really important that if MD has different views, then please share them, because I'd like to discuss them with you. Yep, so Stevie, excellent point. Looking at a city centre in Glasgow and surrounding housing schemes, they're filthy. Again, just you know, walk through Govan Hill tonight. Go for a walk through Govan Hill.
I would recommend that.
You know, walk through Nicola Sturgeon's own constituency. You know, I've leafleted there, and the state of the closes and back doors have been left to rot, left to deteriorate over time, and again, just to go back to what I said a bit earlier, if Nicola Sturgeon can't, or Mary Black, whoever it is, look after their own constituents or look after the local people, then what chance have we got? And that's something to always remember. So when you're voting next week, bear that in mind. Keep this put up for the podcast, yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
That's all you can just give them.
Chris, is it true that wee Bernie, I'll take that as Nicola Sturgeon, is pushing to break up the Union and destroy over 300 years of peace and prosperity because she got a knockback from a Scottish tenor in Carlisle in the 80s? I don't know. Look it up, do a bit of research. But again, it's another example of where chip in the shoulder develops, and what happens is possibly something like that has totally impacted somebody's opinion. But again, I don't actually think that Nicola Sturgeon believes fervently in independence as much as somebody like Alex Salmond. I think that Nicola Sturgeon actually knows that independence might actually destroy her, independence might destroy the country, but it keeps her in power. And it's very, very interesting that Nicola Sturgeon has refused to commit to an actual date for a new referendum. So she is very, very forthright in beating the drum and waving the flag, but again, when pressed on it, she is very reluctant to name a date, and that for me is very, very telling. So I think she might be pulling a fast one over her supporters, but for whatever reason, blind faith perhaps, they don't see it. Scott McPhee, I work in the NHS, and since the SNP came to power, budgets have been cut severely. People have no idea how bad it really is. The pandemic should be a prime example of how much stronger Scotland is as part of the UK. The mess COVID-19 would have made of an independent Scotland standing alone doesn't bear thinking about. Again, and that's something that we should be discussing. What happens to an independent Scotland if another pandemic breaks out? What would Scotland do? If we'd be so busy, and if Scotland was to vote independence in 2 years' time, 3 years' time after a referendum, and a pandemic struck, you're right. It doesn't bear thinking about. We would lose so much money. We would be cut off for our main trading partner. There'd be a hard border. We would have to find our own currency, right in the midst of a possible pandemic. It's crazy, absolute craziness. And Scott, it's a very good point about budgets being cut. It's a very good point about budgets being cut. Again, the SNP don't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about cuts. They don't want to talk about budget cuts. They don't want to talk about closing libraries. They don't want to talk about closing swimming pools. They don't want to talk about closing maternity units, closing hospitals, Inverclyde, REH, Edinburgh. They don't want to talk about these things because they're too busy beating their drums. Every region in Scotland has been run into the ground by the SNP with constant local council funding cuts. Again, look into it yourselves, guys. There's so many examples of it, and what's particularly galling with that is that they've actually got, believe it or not, they've got the power to change that. They've got the power to raise taxes. They've got the power to implement change. At Holyrood, they've got these powers, but they refuse to use them because it's a difficult decision that they don't want to lose popularity. And for the SNP, in my opinion, it's popularity at all costs, and that's what wins them elections. Chris, yeah, we will put the tactical voting up on the screen. Yeah, we'll do that after the show.
Just try to find
So
it.
don't worry about that.
Yeah, that's over. If I can find it, if somebody can send me, I'll put it up.
So John, just to get back to you, I said we welcome contrasting views. So Boris Johnson said there'd be no border checks. That's a lie. Boris Johnson lied to a fisherman. He is the best recruiting sergeant for the SNP. Sad but true. So John, I take it you're not a Conservative supporter or a Boris Johnson fan. Again, he might not be he could be the greatest thing since this, but he could not be. That's up to you. It's a personal opinion. I think that all, in my opinion, not just whether it's Boris Johnson, whether it's Nicola Sturgeon, all politicians are liars. And again, just to refer back to Simon, if you want to show that council tax picture again, if you've got it,
Yep.
for me, something like this is a bigger lie, and something like this for me is just pulling the wool over people's eyes. So again, something to think about. Hopefully, Ian Whitehead, evening to you. Gadget John, sorry. Do you think this new political Alba will take votes for the SNP? So that is something that somebody asked a wee while ago. I don't think they will. I don't think they'll. I think they might take votes from the second preference list, but I think that hardcore voters. So I think that the SNP have probably got a percentage of voters that are hardcore independents, and it is independence immediately at all costs. I think that some of them may vote for the Alba Party, but I think that they won't. I don't. I think that it's all smoke and mirrors with them. I think that they've got a bit of popularity, a bit of publicity with Alex Salmond, but I don't necessarily think that they'll take votes for the SNP as such, unless it's in the list vote. Archie Henderson, if we were daft enough to vote for independence, we would soon be bankrupt. Business would leave and would be left with the elderly and poor people. Who's going to stay and pay the highest tax in the UK? Again, it's a very interesting point, and I don't really want to get into the debates about capitalism or corporation tax. However, if you go back to the 2014 white paper on independence that was produced at great expense, I think that corporation tax was a big issue back then, and I think that you make a good point with that. I think it's really important to say that if Scotland became independent, and as a person or a businessman you had the choice to set up business anywhere in the UK or the rest of the UK, so whether it was England, Wales, Northern Ireland, and you had choices between paying tax, are you going to pay more tax, going to pay less tax, and that's the country you're going to create the jobs in, that's the country you're going to go to because it's going to be more beneficial to you. So I think that's a very, very good point. The last thing we want is a brain drain. The last thing we want is to discourage startups. The last thing we want is to discourage businessmen. And you just have to look at 2014. There was a lot of businesses did say that they would move their headquarters to elsewhere, and a lot of businesses did come out against independence because, rightly, they seen it as damaging to them. So great point you've made there. If Scotland went independent, Scotland turns into a war zone. That's STV1. I think in some respects it is already a war zone. I think that the SNP have turned people against each other. It's now a case of you're now defining Scotland by not by male or female or what team you support or what religion you are. You're now defined by what if you're in favour of independence or not. And for some reason, people that are more supportive of independence are very vocal, and they're quick to jump in the bandwagon and become internet trolls against MD that has the temerity and dares to say against it. So I think in some regards it's already a war zone. Sean Maxwell, I'm for Reform UK. Okay, Sean, so anything you want to say to us or comment, please do. Jeff Shaw enjoying the show. Enjoying being here. Alex Salmond, Chris Bond, did Alex Salmond use 500k legal fees paid by the SNP for acting unlawfully to set up his Alba Party? I think that you'll find that he may not have specifically used that, but he was paid legal fees and he was paid damages, and there is absolutely no doubt that some of that would be used for that. Absolutely not. Absolutely so. Sorry. SNP's time is up. Couldn't agree more. Aussie Hutton's asking, who do you think will be the best party to turn it around? Again, Aussie, I'm not here to tell you that. I'm not here to preach to you. I would encourage you to look at the manifestos. I would encourage you to look at policy. I would encourage you to think about the future, think about the NHS, think about education, and make your own informed decision. Rachel Moore replying to you, Whitehead, go Gordon. I'll try.
Try.
So guys, again, please like, please share, and the graphics that we've shown you tonight, the graphics we've had up, we will share them on the page after the show, because I think it's really, really important for you to view that.
Colin, if you want to call in, give us a call, speak to Gordon, give him your views, even if you disagree with him.
I would say, especially if you disagree with me, because I really, really want to know why. Because if you make some good points, we'll get you on, and you know that's what democracy is all about. Charles Gardner, Gordon, with social media massive, surely nearly everyone has got the message of tactical vote now or never to damage the SNP vote. You'd be surprised.
That's what we're trying to do.
That's exactly why we're here. So. Charles, a very good point. I would encourage you, if you've got your own Facebook page, your own Twitter page, your own Instagram page, your own Snapchat page, whatever, share it, because it's only if we all do our part, and it's only if we all do that, the message gets out there. Okay, so please do that, and let us know how you get on. James Peebles, we need a strong unionist vote to oust the SNP. I do believe if we vote tactically, we can achieve this. Again, that links into what Charles was saying. It's really, really important to get a message out there, and it's really, really important to to get that majority, and it's really, really important that the silent majority turns into the vocal majority, because if we do unite, and if we do act as a support, if we do act as a unionist voice, then that's something we can do. Let's have some other comments. Kimberly Kane. We would be like India, thousands and thousands would die. Would there still be an NHS? What about an army? Our kids, I feel so sorry for kids in Scotland. She gets voted in. I guess the country be over. Boris all the way. Again, I'm not going to particularly endorse that last part. That's obviously your own opinion. But when it comes to your other points, I think that, you know, we have been part of the UK. We have benefited from being part of the UK in our response to COVID. I think that, you know, the purchasing power the UK has for PPE, the purchasing power and the facilities we have for research and development, the work we went into the vaccines, the rollout of the vaccines. Again, I'm not going to kid on the mistakes weren't made. I'm not going to kid on that everything's perfect. But again, it's, for me, it's a safety net, and that's really important in times of crisis. And you know, it's a very, very good point, so thank you for that. Stevie One, how is wee Salmon still in a job using the workplace as a knocking shop? Just in case you're wondering what Stevie's referring to, it's the allegations, which is very important to use that word, of sexual misconduct. Again, if you want to look into that, then please do. RAC 55, who win this game on Sunday, will be 55 invincible. Simon and Sandra do the shows in football, so please come back on and say that to them. However much I may agree with you. John, spot on. Where are the real policies? Who speaks for the people? Douglas Ross. I'd rather vote for the monster Raven Looney party. On this occasion, John, disagree. I would encourage you to vote for a unionist party like the Lib Dems, like Labour, like Conservative, because a vote for the monster Raven Looney party, unfortunately, might be a wasted vote, no matter how interesting it might be for that. But again, just to kind of latch on to what you're saying, your first point is, where are the real policies? There's none. Every debate I watch and every interview that I hear and I see is always focused around independence, and any time that any interviewer does try to move the conversation on or questions about education, Nicola Sturgeon gets very angry and gets very shouty, and you know, so I think that that's the way forward, and I really, really think that the more we challenge policy, the more we highlight feelings, and the more we highlight the mistakes that are getting made, then the more chance we've got. Arthur, Roger talking very well, Gordon. Okay, well, thank you. That's your opinion.
Somebody was asking who they vote for, so if they need to tell you what area, we'll see.
I'll get to that in a second. So, it's time News woke up and worked to get rid of this shower of cults. Regards from Europa for Perth. I think that's a very good point you make. For me, it is a bit of a cult. I think if I remember correctly, in one of the SNP party conferences, might be 2016, they had a motion where it was against party policy to criticise and to have any comments that deviated from party policy. So imagine living in a democracy for a political party that is in power where they ban internally any internal dissent. I mean, that's incredible when you think about it. And that was SNP policy. They banned internal dissent. So not only can you not criticise them in public, and this is not me, this is their own supporters, you couldn't say anything at the party conference because they are a cult, and that is it. It is an absolute cult. Archie Henderson, Jim, vote for the best party to beat the SNP in the first vote, and on the list vote, again, couldn't agree more. Carol Ann Hamilton, I'm voting tactical. Not sure if you always had that viewpoint, but if you have decided to do that in the last few days, then brilliant. Kate Kelly, hi to you as well. Chris Bond, you vote Tory if they're the biggest opposition to the SNP. I think it's really important that you vote for any party that's the biggest opposition to the SNP. Again, whatever party that is. Sean Maxwell, post vote reform UK for Scotland and then vote for Glasgow North East Labour. Again, just encourage you to go onto the tactical voting websites and look at your local postcode and look at local area for that. Kenny Moore, just kind of echoing what I was saying a minute ago, absolutely right. Nicola Sturgeon can't control Gavin Hill. Again, take a walk there one day, and you'll see for yourselves. Never mind running independent Scotland, absolutely right. James Peebles, it was passed in I thought it was 2016, yep. So it was passed in the 2016 party conference. The SNP are a cult, yep. Again, guys, I just like to try and give you as many facts as possible and as much information that I've verified in the past. And again, just goes to show, that is the signs of a real cult. Great show, guys, for Stevie. Thank you, and I know you've commented on it, so thank you very much, Stevie One. Jamie Reid, unfortunately, Labour cannot rule out a second referendum. However, if they were the preferred option, removing snatches or greens, then there must be a vote. Again, absolutely agree with that for the most part. It would be good.
Right, let me hear it.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello. It's Si.
Hi.
It's Kirk.
Hi, Kirk. What can we do for you tonight?
Tell us who you're
Si, I just wanted to add to. I've just tuned in there just now, obviously, because I'm no long in, but just to kind of add to it, the apathy side of it, that we all need to get off our backsides and everybody get themselves out there and vote, because too often people just don't bother and then moan about it when the results don't go their way.
Yeah, absolutely right. So Simon's in the background, it's Gordon here, so hope you're well, mate.
Hello,
Absolutely
yeah.
agree. That's something we've spoke about. Obviously been out, you've missed maybe the start of the show or the last kind of half hour. Apathy is a massive problem we've had, and it's something that we need to try and change, maybe a culture change, because I think that maybe somebody will think, or somebody else will do it, it's somebody else's problem. It's not my issue, but it is. And if you believe in my opinion, if you believe in the United Kingdom, then go out there and vote for a party that also believes in the UK.
I also think that targeting the 16-year-olds, who majority of them I wouldn't imagine would be bothering with politics and getting out to vote, it would be a bit of a boost if we could get them up off their backsides and get out and vote.
Yeah. Again, it's just about getting out there, and it's about getting the pro-union voice out there. It's about taking pride in Britain. It's about taking, again, as I was saying earlier in the show, we're so obsessed with the referendum question, they're so obsessed with independence that, you know, local issues have became, you know, almost non-existent. You know, I don't know if you agree or not, but there's almost no conversation around the future of the NHS. There's almost no conversation about education. It's all about independence, and I think that the more we can get our message out to college, to university graduates, to anyone really, I think the better.
Yeah, definitely. Agree.
Just a quick question for the two of you here, Kirk, yourself and Gordon. See if anybody's watching, any viewers, like you say, just like the man in the street, the average person, and they want to get involved with like leaflet campaigns and get involved on street level, what would you recommend? What kind of, who would you contact?
Personally, myself, I kind of run the Rutherglen Unionists, and locally we're encouraging people to vote Labour. We've nearly 500 people in it, and most of us are Conservative voters who've prepared really to vote Labour and then Conservative on the list.
Sorry, Kirk, can I just ask you, did you say that that's, you know, one political, so the majority of people there are probably traditionally supporter of one particular party, but are prepared to vote differently just to get the SNP out? Yeah,
100%, yeah.
Okay, that's brilliant, that's great, and that is something that we have discussed, something we are talking about. Again, you know, ask yourself, in my opinion, ask yourself the question, what is the biggest danger? And it's certainly something that I agree with you, Kirk. I'm involved in a group called Unionism Against Separation, if anybody wants to look up that, and we've got, you know, a lot of supporters, a lot of people that comment on our posts, etc. So if that's something you want to have a look at, please do, and let us know what you think, okay?
We've actually got quite a lot of angry people in Rutherglen anyway because of our MP's Margaret Ferrier and because of her behaviour.
Do you want to tell us about her behaviour, Kirk?
Certainly, she knowingly, after having a COVID test when she had COVID, went to Burnside to get her hair cut, went to get her nails done, went for a meeting in East Kilbride with the East Kilbride police and sat and shared a meeting with them, then went to the swimming baths and then jumped a train down to London to go to Parliament.
Wow, that's incredible. And obviously that was discovered, so that's incredible. And for me, like, you know, that demonstrates that they think they're above the law, that they think they're untouchable, because they and again it goes back to, you know, they've been saying for years about the elite and blah blah blah, but then they behave the exact same way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Well, she's still there anyway, taking a wage, a handsome wage at that.
So for that area, who would you vote to? Who's the candidates or parties to vote in that area?
James Kelly for Labour in my area. I know James well. I'm not a Labour man myself, but it makes it a wee bit easier knowing that I know James and he's good. He's good MSP for the area. He's approachable. He also helped me with Better Together and stuff like that. So it makes it a wee bit easier, even although I'm not a Labour man. But the Conservative have got no chance in Rutherglen.
So what two votes would you recommend then?
Definitely. Well, I'm a Conservative, so I would urge everybody to vote Labour first and then Conservative second.
So sorry, Kirk, just to kind of emphasise there, mate, if you don't mind, you are naturally a Conservative supporter, but you are advocating for the majority of people to vote for Labour first of all. It's the only choice. We don't have a choice. It's either more SNP or Labour. That's the simple choice that they all face. And to be fair, so does the whole of Glasgow. Okay, good point, Kurt. Just for those people that are maybe Conservative voters out there, we're not advocating Labour throughout the whole country. I'm sure there are areas that the Conservatives will be best placed to beat the SNP, but in your particular viewpoint, your particular area, Kirk, it's Labour for you, yeah? Yeah, it's got to be country first, your party second, I'm afraid to say. So that's actually a great phrase, Kurt. Do you mind if I steal it for maybe future shows or later on? Country first, party second. That's very, 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 very well put. I think that kind of that sums up, doesn't it? Yeah,
definitely. It's too important. We can't have another 4 years of that lot.
Simon, what you were asking about, if anybody wants to go out leafleting or get involved, then contact your local candidate. If you look up the tactical voting postcode checker and it's Lib Dem, for example, then contact your local Lib Dem candidate. Phone them up, ask them if they want a hand. It is kind of, when you think about it, it's like, surely it's not that simple, but it is. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've done it before, Kirk, I don't know if you've done it before, but just contact your local candidate, and if you agree with their viewpoints or if they're pro-union, then go out and help them.
Gordon, I think a lot of online stuff now, especially with 16-year-olds being allowed to vote and they've never been 2 seconds away from their phone, sharing a lot of online things like facts, things like the SNP have made a mess of, and just hope it gets out there. Because most folk don't buy papers now, and I think that would draw attention to young people seem to hear things to their pals and think, oh no, right, I'm going to vote. How are you voting for him? Because my pal's voting for it. If people actually knew a lot of the facts out there and how the SNP are affecting the education and other things and college places and stuff like that, they would think twice.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think that, a lot of people in this country, a lot of people I speak to, they are influenced by their family, by their friends. And I think that if we can start to get our message out and convince people of our viewpoints, then I think word of mouth would be a great thing, and it's something that the SNP have used to their advantage. And I think, to be fair to them, as I say, but I think it's something we could do. It's certainly an area in which we could learn a lot from them, even, and do much better in.
I don't know what your lads' thoughts are, but I can't see the SNP getting a majority. I really can't. Not after everybody that. There's people I know that spoke to them in the past, voted for them in the past, who now detest them. But I've not seen anybody go the other way. Yeah. So I think a lot of the SNP voters, I'm hoping anyway, will either not vote and stay away, or probably sway to Labour. They won't vote Conservative.
I can only hope that as well, mate. I can only hope that's the case.
Okay. Well, keep up the good work, lads.
Thanks, Kirk.
Cheers.
Thanks a lot.
No problem.
Cheers for the call. Great call. We'll get back to the comments just a wee second.
No worries. Cheers. Here's another call coming in. Hello.
Hello. I just wanted to ring in about the phone-in.
Okay. What's your point? Have you got a question or a point, or how can we help?
Aye. Well, it's just because I'm a Labour man, right, and I know in Glasgow that like most people are Labour people as well, but there's a lot of places where the best party against the SNP is the Tories. And the thing is, there's a lot of people in around the country that are a little bit peeved off by the performance of the Tories down in Westminster, and the performance during COVID and generally, because they've been in power for ages. But for me, that's temporary. Yeah, they won't be in power for that long, and they'll be out. So I'm just saying to people, don't vote for the SNP just because that's temporary. But splitting this country up will be pretty much permanent.
Yep, great point. So, anything else you want to share or ask, or?
Well, no, really. I just want to get that point across, because I think there's a lot of people not really sure who to vote for, or they just vote for Labour regardless. But I know there's places outside Glasgow, up in Aberdeenshire and different places where the most prominent party, or the party best placed to beat the SNP would be Conservative. So it's about tactical voting. That's it.
Yeah, and I think that if you are a Labour voter that stays in, Aberdeenshire or areas like that, then I think it's really important to lend your vote to maybe say the Conservatives. I think that if you are a traditional Labour supporter in different parts of Glasgow, if you're a Conservative voter by tradition, but the Labour Party is best placed to is best placed to win there, then lend your vote, because you're absolutely right. The permanent and lasting damage that a vote for the SNP can do doesn't bear thinking about. So I think that it's best in the short term to, even if you have to hold your nose and vote for a party you don't necessarily support first and foremost, then for the good of the future and the good of the country, it's the best idea. Totally agree.
That's it, and it's just good to see something on social media that's no, beating the drum for independence, because that's always that seems to be all we see about, people wanting to split up the country and whatnot. So it's good to see something a little bit alternative for a change.
Okay. No problem at all. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks for your
guys.
call. Cheers. Thanks a lot. Good call again.
So there you go, we have got colours.
So,
That's the old number 38 bus here.
it's like buses, you don't get a call for a week and then several come along at once. Don't talk to me about the SNP and public transport policy, Si. So, do you want to scroll up? We'll get back to some comments, if any more.
How far were you, can you remember?
Yep, so we'll go to kind of Jordan's comment and then we'll go for there. Right. So a couple of great calls again, guys. Just to kind of summarise the calls there, we had a Conservative voter that was happy to vote Labour in the short term, and the opposite as well. So a Labour supporter, but wouldn't mind voting Conservative in this kind of day and age. So it's a big ask, and it's not an easy thing to ask of people, and it's not an easy thing to do. But at the same time, it really depends on your viewpoint for the future. So Jordan's point, Jordan Robertson, how can the SNP credibly make these big spending commitments when they plan to sever Scotland from its central bank and treasury in coming years? Again, absolutely fantastic point. They are, they'll promise anything, but separation for the UK would lead to a hard border with the rest of the UK. It's common sense. It's and it's so funny that everything that the SNP argued against for Brexit would be everything that came true for leaving the UK. So if they don't believe in that, how can they then be hypocrites and support another thing? For me, it's nonsense. It doesn't make any sense. But people believe it and people vote for it. Jamie Reid, tactical voting is the best way forward. Absolutely correct. Again, Google search. What in your area, put in your postcode. Who's the best party to vote for in your local area? Again, just to re-emphasise, I'm not here to ask you to vote for a particular party. But again, as long as it's a pro-union party, couldn't ask for anything more. James Peebles, we are tactical voting to oust the SNP. We are voting to restore our unionist views in Scotland. Yes, and unionist shouldn't be a dirty word. Unionist should be a word that we're proud of. A unionist should be somebody that believes in the UK and is proud to say that. So, absolutely right. Kimberly Kane, we all know what kind of culture she lives in. I personally think she's trying to divide this country. Yes, I'm Scottish, but I'm also British. Yeah, there's an old saying. It goes back to the days of hundreds of years ago, divide and conquer. I think again it's an old-fashioned tactic, but it works, and let's try and stop that and make sure it doesn't work this time. SNP manifestos to make Glasgow a city of refuge. Again, there's an argument there regarding who's allowed to vote, who's allowed not to vote. So if you allow people into the country, then you give them a vote, who they're going to vote for. So is it a case of buying votes? Then that's obviously up to you guys to look into and research for yourself. James Wilson, just get nippy out. Again, couldn't agree more, but unfortunately it's not that simple. We do have to get off our backsides and go to that ballot box and put a cross next to the party that's best placed to oust them. So I wish it was just a case of that, but we do have to. There is a bit more work we have to do for that, unfortunately. But I'm sure if we all believe in it and we all do it, then it's something we can achieve. Aaron Muldoon, I'm Labour and I'm anti-Brexit, but I'll vote for the Scottish Tories this election, hoping the whole of Airdrie and Shorts are thinking the same. Well, Aaron, ask them, go out there, deliver leaflets, chapping doors, stand yourself, stand as a candidate, share on Facebook, share on Twitter, get the message out there. You know, let's try and influence things. Let's try and change people's opinions. Let's try and get our voice out there. Sean Maxwell, great calls. So yeah, a couple of great calls tonight. So that was fantastic. Scott McPhee, yeah, the Nats hunting Pats. Yeah, this is very, very good point. So if you speak out against them, they'll jump on you to discredit, ridicule you. Yeah, absolutely. This is the army of trolls they've got. So what happens is, just to kind of, I've experienced it myself a few times, is when you dare to speak out against them or dare to disagree with anything the dear leader says, then they jump on you and they spend days attacking you and ridiculing you. But again, you say that they use social media very well, and it's true. They are experts in PR, they are experts in social media, and it's time that we play them at their own game. So yeah, great point. Thomas Motion, SNP out, did simple and straightforward. Sean again just hope the SNP lose. Yeah, again. John's asking me personally, do I have any thoughts on the issue of membership on the EU? Yes, I do, but we'll maybe save that for another show if you like. So just sorry, size of show off a wee bit, just missing the first part here. So Scott Ferguson saying the SNP have done so much to centralise their power that has made it easy for them to control the country and silence dissent. So I will go on and cover the rest of your points, but yeah, that's a very, very, very good point. Again, just look up. I'm not going to, preach to yous, but if you look up Police Scotland, for example, we used to have local police forces, regional police forces. Now it's centralised. You're absolutely right. Health boards, etc., same for them as well. Education's gone that way as well. That's what they like to do. They like to centralise power in their own hands, and then heaven help anybody that disagrees with it. Heaven help anybody that's got the guts to actually stand up for what they believe in. Because you're right. The best example of silencing dissent is they do it to their own party. At the 2016 SNP party conference, as far as I believe, they actually voted to outlaw dissent in their own party. So that sums it up. And they claim to be the champions of democracy, but the first thing to go is opinions. The first move they made was the police and the councils, yep, so media and so on, yep. Any country centralised control, ultimate crashes and burns, yep, couldn't agree more. The SNP know they've got limited time to achieve their goals. I think the caller Mark last week touched on, peak SNP. I hope we're at that stage, but we need to make sure we vote, and as long as we vote for parties we believe in, then we can make that a reality, I hope. Well, good fellow, now this is something that I've thought about, and it's something that is a very good question, a very good point. So Will Goodfellow saying we need one Scottish Unionist Party. We will never beat the SNP otherwise. They will win next election. We need one party for all. Tactical voting will achieve nothing. So I'll deal with your second point in a second about tactical voting, but we need one Scottish Unionist Party. Again, in theory, it is something that people have thought about, it's something that people have looked at, but that would take 20, 30, 40 years to establish that, and we don't have 20, 30, 40 years. Well, we don't have time. Time is our enemy, because the SNP are, for better or worse, very popular. So it takes time to create that party, it takes time to create that movement. So if you're talking here in theory in 40, 50 years time, then perhaps, but right now the most important thing to do is tactical voting, and I would urge you, until that party is created and established and won in elections, then until that point, then please vote tactical, because if we were to do it, then I'm sure you'll disagree with your last statement, it would achieve something. Aaron Muldoon has just used our advice and checked for Airdrie shots, and it's vote Labour twice or Labour and Conservative. So great, thanks for that, Aaron. Again, go out there and share that with your local community, share that with your neighbours, share that with your friends, and hopefully that will be acted upon, and hopefully that turns out to be the case if they get the votes. So thank you for that. Tommy, Aberdeen area is usually lived in, are they not? again, I don't have that specific information to hand, so the last thing I want to do is give you information that turns out not to be correct. However, again, just go back, check the postcode checkers, and I'm sure you get the answer there. I do know that Lib Dems are traditionally strong in areas like the Orkneys, like the Hebrides, like the Highlands and Islands. So that is something maybe what double check. But again, Tommy, go on the postcode checker and you come back to us and you tell us. Robert Ballantyne, who should we vote for in Hamilton? Very, very important to say to you, Robert, mate, that I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. So again, have a look at the tactical voting guides, have a look at the postcode checkers, and have a look there. Okay, Stevie, I think he actually made this point before, but I didn't get to it. So let's be honest, guys and girls, SNP, the IRA, again, that's not something that I want to particular comment on. But if you do look up, people like, I would say that the SNP are very forthcoming in their opinions, and there are some Republican elements that want to get rid of the monarchy within the SNP. So there certainly are. There could be some similarities there. Alcohol limit skimming, so what let the people in? I'm not really sure what you're referring to. So if you want to come back to us, then please do. Stevie, what about our families who lost their fight for Great Britain be remembered? What is the SNP giving us? Yep. So this is something that I touched on last week, where our forefathers and grandfathers and ancestors, we fought and died for the right to vote, and voter apathy is something that cost the Union vote quite dearly, and voting is a sacred right, and it's something to be defended, something to be proud of. And our forefathers and foremothers, in whatever capacity it was, they did fight in world wars and European wars for our right to be free, and the SNP are happy to shut that freedom down, to shut democracy down. Again, you only have to look at you only have to look at their own party conference. Going down to Will Goodfellow, ignored your point. Because I'm telling the truth, what a bunch of idiots. Silence, you're doing it. I believe that I actually read out your point and I expanded upon it, and I did give an opinion on it. So I'm not sure what you mean. Well, if you want to come back on us, then please do, because I did read out your point and I agree. I think was that the point about Scotland is one unionist party?
I think so. I'll just have a read it.
Well, let's scroll back up. We'll have a look back over it. Will Goodfellow.
You did, aye? Yeah.
So we need one Scottish. So what was your original point that we got? So I did cover this quite a bit. So we need one Scottish Unionist party. We will never beat the SNP otherwise. They will win the next election. And then you went on to say that tactical voting will not achieve anything. Now, I did actually agree in principle, and I said that it is something that possibly in the future that could work. But as I said that, and as I was saying that, okay, sorry, well, I'm mistaken. So you've come back and said we'd read my comment out. Okay, so great. Okay, so I was going to just reiterate that having a one Scottish Unionist party is something that I've thought about, and I've actually weighed up the pros and cons of it. 2 seconds, just going to finish Bill's point, but he can answer it, yeah. And I will, just to reiterate, that establishing a political party takes time and resources, and it is something that in theory could work, but right now I think tactical voting is the best thing. Hi.
Hello. Hi, Stevie from Bishop Briggs.
Hi.
How you doing?
I just wanted to bring up a point, and I don't know what you think about this yourselves. Do you think nobody's going to win an outright majority here? I don't think. So, do you think if Labour and the Conservatives hold a majority over the SNP, they will form a government, or do you think they will allow the SNP to run a minority government?
It's a fantastic question. I wish I knew the inner workings of both parties. Personally, I would like them to do that. I think that the biggest clear and present danger is another SNP government. I think that something they should do, and even if it's what's called a kind of like supply and demand agreement, where it's maybe not official, but it is something that they could maybe do unofficially or come to an agreement, because I think that, you know, if the SNP were to lose the majority this time, and you know, perhaps even if, you know, who knows, the Lib Dems come in as well, you know, some kind of loose coalition, then, you know, I would certainly think that whoever was the biggest party out of Labour, Lib Dem and Conservatives, they would certainly form, you know, the majority viewpoint, maybe get the First Minister role. But I would like to see cabinet posts for maybe Lib Dem and Labour as well, if they came to some kind of agreement. But I would certainly think that would be a great thing if it was possible.
Yeah, well, my only concern is that they wouldn't, but hopefully for the greater good that they would, and need to, actually.
Yeah, I would honestly, Stevie, I would love to sit here and say, you know, that would happen, but I don't have that information, and I couldn't claim to know the inner workings of these parties. But it would be great that if the unionist parties did win a majority, which I'm sure they will and I hope they will, then I would love for them to even form even a loose coalition, because it would be so. I'm trying to think of the right words here. Actually, it would be a massive step in the right direction, and it would really split the SNP, and that's when you would have a division between the Alba Party and the SNP. I really think it would be, you know, I think it would be a great thing.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to see what your opinion was.
Okay, cheers, Stevie.
Cheers, Stevie. Thanks.
Cheers.
So John 6904, you're 6904. You really want my opinion on the EU? Gordon and I voted no in 2014, but I've now changed my mind. We were told that the only way we could remain in the EU was to vote no. That's why I asked you the question. Again, just to say, John, that my own personal views aren't really towards the EU aren't particularly relevant to tonight's discussion. But if you message Si, petition Si, then maybe he'll do a show on that at some point. But right now it's important for me and for hopefully for the show to concentrate on what we are discussing. It's a very, very interesting debate. I do have opinions, but again, just to go back to, we'd rather encourage people to tactical vote for the Scottish election here rather than anything else. Okay, I'd like to say happy anniversary to William and Kate. It's their 10th anniversary today, so again, that's something that we should be celebrating, so congratulations to them. Thanks, Chris. Adrian Hunter's asking about Greenock. Again, I would encourage you.
Glasgow once here. I'm trying to find some of them if I can find them.
Yeah, that's something. So Inverclyde, massive area. So Inverclyde's a massive area. I do believe traditionally Inverclyde has been a Labour area, and I do believe that that's probably the best option there. So it would be maybe 1 Labour, 2 Conservative, 3 Lib Dem. However, by all means, Adrian, go into the tactical voting guides that we've published, put in the postcode that you're in, and let us know what the results are, because it'd be great to share that. So Kevin Dunn, biting my tongue in Wishaw, Labour first, Conservative second. So I'm presuming, Kevin, that you would usually be the other way around. So that's great to hear you're doing that. And again, all we're asking is that we do that. We bite our tongue, we hold our nose, whatever phrase you want to use, and we do it as Kirk, one of the first callers, said, country first, party second. Well, Goodfellow again, great again. Just to apologise for the mix up with your previous comments. Who did I vote for in West? Loving it's riddled with the SNP. Yeah, I won't use the next word, but it is riddled with the SNP. And again, I would totally urge you to go into the tactical voting guides and put in your postcode there.
See, for the Inverclyde one, there's a Unionist Club of Greenock on Facebook.
Okay, so just say it again, Si.
So on Facebook there's a Unionist Club now formed. There's 610 members on it, and if you go on that page, they'll give you the details on who's best to vote for.
Yeah, so Kimberly Kane's just reemphasised, if you go to the postcode checker, it will tell you, so that's great. That's something we're Some don't made the point. I'll go and check that out and I'll look into that, and then I'll maybe answer that at a later date. Okay. Just want to scroll down side. We'll get some other comments in. Vote tactical. So Adrian Hunter, Labour and Tories tried that before and it destroyed Labour in Scotland. So yeah, there was a coalition back in the day, and again, so this is obviously from maybe 20 years ago or so. There was a kind of loose coalition between Labour and Tories, and Adrian's point is it destroyed Labour in Scotland. The SNP destroyed Labour in Scotland. I think that the SNP took over Labour's mantle in Scotland. So. And I think times have changed, but I think that is maybe something that would prevent Labour and Tories working together. But again, Adrian, it's something that I think for the good of the country, it's something we have to look at. But because times have changed and things have moved on since then. So let's have a look at that. Sharon Scott. So somebody asked about Greenock.
Yeah.
So Sharon, thanks for the information. That's brilliant. Greenock is Labour 1, Tories 2. No more. But I would maybe add to that and maybe suggest Lib Dems is 3. But again, I'm not here to preach or anything like that. But certainly for me, the biggest parties are for the Union Voice are the Tories, Lib Dem and Conservatives. However, Sharon, if that's your opinion, brilliant, and thanks for looking that up and thanks for sharing that. JP was replying to Adrian Hart, that's the only way to oust a member for Clyde. Look at the numbers if you don't believe me. Again, look into that, do the postcode checker. Betty's asking, do you know anything about East Dunbartonshire? Now, I could be wrong here, but I think that this is just from previous elections, it could be Lib Dems and Labour in that particular area. However, if you put in your postcode checker, then Betty, then this is what I'm saying. It's great that you're asking these questions, but what I'm encouraging people to do is let's go and find out for ourselves, and let's take that first step, and let's see if we can get that knowledge for ourselves, and then as a second step, let's try and share that with other folk. Tom Cadona's point, I presume RC means Roman Catholic. Roman Catholic vote moved from en masse to SNP for Labour. Again, I don't have any information on that, so it's not something I can comment on. But again, thanks for the comment, thanks for the opinion. It is something we can maybe look into. Sharon Scott has commented, there are 27 unionist clubs who will advise they do not speak for or are affiliated to any party. It's a great point because I'm not particularly affiliated to any party as well. The motto is country before party, so that is a brilliant thing. Maybe if we could get some kind of graphic up for that side, maybe create something for that. So I think that country before party is a fantastic motto, a fantastic phrase, and it would be great to get something up about that. Okay, Si. Chris, there's no need for a coalition. Vote tactically for the biggest party outside the SNP. It's a temporary situation. SNP is more. We can get back to proper politics, education and health. Yep, again, I think that if enough people do vote tactically, then you're right. However, if it's a choice between ousting the SNP with a coalition, then again, temporarily, I'm sure that'd be a better option. However, I think it is time to take a more general point in a wider context. Getting back to proper politics, education, health, police, safety, community issues. Absolutely right. John's asking me if Boris Johnson's a good role model. I don't have any opinion on that at the moment. SNP, so some dump dupe is asking as saying to us that the SNP fly the Palestinian flag in its convention. Again, I've not seen that. However, if you've got any pictures of that, then you can send them in. But on a wider point, the SNP will fly any flag for popularity. The SNP will have any viewpoint. The SNP will have any opinion if it creates popularity for themselves. So that's something to remember as well, like in a wider context.
So I think the ones that call in when you're finishing up 5 minutes.
We'll stay for another 5 or 10 minutes, yeah, probably quarter to 9 or so. So, guys, we're only going to be here for another kind of 10 minutes or so. So, if you've got anything you would like to ask, then please do. Any comments you'd like to share.
They want to know about any unionist groups Sharon's on as well, and so they should be able to advise which groups are in the area if they want to get involved.
Yep. Ian Brown's asking if tactical voting is a success, will the unionists go after the election? Do we go back to sleep, become complacent, or do we reawaken the Scottish Labour Party? Well, that's a very good question. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I've got the answer for that. If we do oust the SNP, then that's up to the individual parties. That's up to the Labour Party. That's up to the Conservative Party to keep that vote. And I think one of the big ways of doing that, as we've said previously for previous comments, is for us to get back to, the things that I believe actually matter to people more: education, health, crime, defence. So, Ian, to answer your question, that's up to the parties to maintain that support, and I think that complacency is something that has cost us, and if we become complacent again, then we'll let the SNP back in.
Time for one more call if anybody does want to call in. You now have an image with country before party. There you go.
Simon, there is one image I want to share. It's saved as the PISA figures. PISA.
I think I've got it here. PISA.
Yeah. So something I want to share with you and kind of leave you with is this is the SNP's record on education since they came to power, or since they've been in. So
I'm going to make this big so you'll not see your face for a minute, just because it's important.
No, I'm quite happy for that. My face is not something you want to see anyway, so I'm more than happy for that. So if you look at the graph that we've got on the show, got on the screen now, the graph, this is the Scottish schools performance. This is an independent worldwide measurement. Okay, now I'm no scientist and I'm no mathematician, but as you can see, the trend is massively down, and this is what matters to people. This is education in Scotland. Scotland was once was the pride of the world, was the envy of the world when it came to education. And since the SNP came to power, Nicola Sturgeon stood on a platform and said her first priority is education. Her first priority is education. Now, if you listen to any SNP political show, if you listen to any interview, watch any debate, what is the SNP's first? What is Nicola Sturgeon's first priority? Is it education? Doesn't reflect in the figures. Doesn't reflect in the results. Our country is sleepwalking to disaster. Gagey John, you decline education standards during SNP control. That's exactly what we're highlighting. Obviously, you're absolutely right. And again, this is out there. Go and look it up. I've not made this up. These are figures that are international standards. What happens with the PISA figures is that thousands of children in each country around the world are independently tested varying different means, and these are the results. And since the SNP came to power, there's been a massive decline, and that's worrying. For me, that is much more important than continual referendum debates, and I hope you agree with that. So Scott McPhee's saying the most important point. Yeah, I've only read 3 words and I'm already agreeing with it. Looking, darting my eyes to the right. The most important point we can make tonight is people need to get out there and cast a vote. It is the only way to save the union. If you sit back, we will all suffer. So, Scott, it is a particularly great point. It's something that I did focus on last week. Tonight, I've tried to talk more about actual SNP policies and give you more information, but last week it was very, very important, and it's very, very important still to highlight that the biggest danger, biggest enemy we have is apathy. And I beg you, no matter what party you support, whether it's Conservative, whether it's Labour, whether it's Lib Dem, if it's a unionist party and it's the best placed party to beat the SNP in your area, then please vote for that. Okay, and country before party. I think that's something that we have to remember. If you have one thought in your head when you're voting, please remember these words: country before party.
That is.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good point yeah, so we'll just finish off with 1 point. So with Scott Ferguson, if we successfully elect a new party, we would have to drive it home to those in power that they serve the people, not the way around. So yep, so I'll kind of like dissect this a little bit in different parts. So yeah, something that I said at the start of the show, it's about the people, it's about local people, local constituencies. If you look at your local area, we shared a graphic at the start with all the potential cuts in services in Glasgow. Walk around Govan Hill, my local area in Paisley has lost its lost its maternity unit. Area Inverclyde, that's lost maternity units as well. There's been centralisation and cuts throughout the country, and it's because the politicians that are in charge now are not focused on the people. They're focused on their credo, their idea. I think there has been a lot of clear politicians in the past, and I think this is something that we've touched on. You're right, Scott. The SNP have morphed into what people believe to be a socialist party, but however, they don't have a lot of socialist policies. They've got the power. They've got the power at Holyrood. Any party in power at Holyrood's got the power to raise taxes, and spend it on different things. They choose not to because it's all about popularity at all costs. And to finish your last point, we need to be represented whoever we vote in. Okay, so that's a great point. So whoever you vote for, make sure it's a unionist vote if you can. Country before party. And a message to if there's any politicians watching, don't forget who elects you, because that there's been all parties are guilty of this, as Scott says, and the politicians need to remember who they represent. And if enough unionist voices go out there and vote, then I'm sure they'll realise that they will have to represent us in the future. So guys, thanks very, very much for all your comments today. It's been a great show. We've had many, many more callers and viewers and listeners and commenters for last week. And yeah, so just finish off with these 3 simple words: country before party.
Thank you very much, guys. If you can like, share the page, people, and the show, people will be able to watch this tonight and tomorrow, and we'll probably beat the 10,000 views we got last week. Thank you very much, guys. Good night.